back to My Best Friend's an Engineer. I'm Lexi.
And I'm Libby. And today we have a really awesome guest. We just finished talking to Vanessa about being a transportation engineer. And I think that was like one of the coolest conversations I've ever had.
Yes, I know nothing about civil engineering in general, so that was so great to learn and to
Yeah.
just learn about the different disciplines and everything that you can do within civil
She
engineering.
is she'll say it at the end of the episode as well, but she for the listeners, her Instagram is at it's V and then Nessa. So it's Vanessa. And yeah, she has her degree in civil engineering. And we just chatted about like what it was like being a woman in STEM, having your civil engineering degree, and like how she kind of got into being a transportation engineer.
Yeah, so excited for you guys to hear.
But first, how was your weekend, Lexi?
It was splendid. What did I do? It was honestly a very relaxing weekend.
Oh, good. Those
Yeah,
are
I
the
got lunch.
best, honestly.
Yeah, got lunch with my grandma, and then at night I went to a Mediterranean restaurant. So that was
Ooh.
fun.
That
So
reminds me of the place that was at Miami, the Mediterranean little thing in Armstrong. What was it
yes,
called?
and then I forgot what it was called, but it was like Bougelleria, which
Yeah.
because it was like supposed to be a French place, and then it turned Mediterranean, and it was so good. I went there like every single day, and then they closed it, and I was like, did I not keep it in business enough? I was like, what is going on?
I
It's like,
know. So, to all the current Miami kids, if any of you are listening, you missed out on an awesome restaurant in
yeah,
Armstrong.
I think they made it a COVID like testing place
Oh,
now, so
testing. They probably had no other place to do it.
yeah, they probably made so many random places just like, okay,
Yeah, just to
nothing's
adapt.
here. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, so then this morning we did our interview. So yeah, it was just very chill. It was very relaxing.
I
So
love that. I think it's so funny when coworkers like on Monday will be like, "Did you have a cool weekend?" And it's like,
no.
you know what?
Like
I just wanted to sleep,
yeah,
so
exactly. I'm like, I was just prepping for next week.
I'm just tired. Like I don't need to be
Yeah,
doing something every
I
weekend.
know. It's so funny because when I was younger, like in school, my family friends that were working that were older than me, I was like, "Oh, you want to do something Friday night?" And they're like, "Ah, no, like too tired." I was like, "Ah, I'm never gonna be like you guys when I'm older.
Yeah,
It's like I'm
right.
always gonna be doing something. I'm always gonna be busy." And then they're like, "You just wait." And I waited, and I'm here, and I totally understand what they're saying now.
I honestly love Fridays at like 6 p.m. when I'm done with work and I have nothing to do. It's the
It's kind of
best.
really refreshing.
It's
Like, okay,
so
yeah, it's
refreshing.
fun to have like a little event here and there, but I have been really just appreciating those days where you're doing nothing.
I feel you. We went to the ice castles on Saturday, which
Nice.
or not castles, ice sculptures. So it's so funny because where I live, they do it's called Winterfest, and it's like this national competition. So it's like this big deal, and it's so funny because people come from all over the place just to come to Little Lake Geneva and like come see these people
Little
like
Lake Geneva, as if it's not like the biggest or most
right.
like the vacation area of the Midwest.
It's true.
Like,
But
where are
it's
you gonna
funny.
go? Like Kankakee, Illinois? No.
People schedule like hotels and like which I guess it is like
It's
an
so
event.
cute. Yeah.
I guess like that makes sense, but it's just funny because like I've always just grown up seeing these like things.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like these. It's this competition where people sculpt giant blocks of snow, and the sculptures are like 12 feet tall,
They looked
and
huge in all of the pictures you posted. I was
they're
laughing. I was like, this is
huge.
so Wisconsin.
And people come from all over. Like I think the people that won actually were from Florida, and then people come from Michigan, and there was someone from North Dakota, and
I
all
think
these
it's so funny
things.
that the people that won were from Florida. They definitely were
Right?
practicing the sand.
That's what I think. I'm like, how did they get into snow sculpting if they live in
Yeah.
Florida? Or maybe they're like snowbirds or something.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
you
know.
also had a big thing happen yesterday.
I know we finally got a car. Finally
Perfect.
it was a great experience. I'm so glad to finally have some wheels. Going down
Congratulations.
going down the
You get
main
a sunroof.
road. Got a sunroof, got heated seats, got a heated steering wheel. So I'm super happy with the purchase. It's a great, reliable car, and it's way you're like way more up off the ground than my Ford Focus was. So that's good. I feel safe driving it, and I'm glad to
Awesome.
not be stranded anymore.
Yes. Now you can go visit those vendors
Finally.
whenever you want. Twice a day, maybe.
Whenever. I can go to
Maybe
the shop
twice a day.
whenever. I'm going to be like, guys, come out and look at my new car.
Very good. Very good. I'm glad that you had also a productive weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we read out some submissions that we got? Well,
Yeah.
here, I have one from the form, which
Okay.
a little overview to touch on. It's in our bio, and you send a screenshot of posting our podcast to your story or sending in a rating, and then you get entered in the giveaway. And you also get emailed 3 templates, which I kind of touched on, in earlier episodes, so I feel like it's a broken record, but just a quick overview. It's the job application tracker for people who are still in school, or maybe you're at a role and you're looking for something new. Totally
Mm-hmm.
could use that. And then a 4-year college planner to plan your classes, maybe for high schoolers that are just graduated, entering school. And then the last one is a work project tracker, which also could be applicable to school projects. So make sure to check that out in our bio. But I can go ahead and read one of those submissions.
Sounds good.
So, this person said, I listen to your podcast on my walk to classes every day and while I'm doing homework. I can't count how many times I laughed. You guys are truly amazing. Okay, I'm glad you guys laughed too, because I feel like we laughed so much on this, and I'm like, we should probably stop laughing so much. But
Hopefully it's entertaining.
yeah, we can only hope. I love your content. If it's not already on your list, could you go into more depth on how guys ever intimidated you in classes or in the work field? Oh, we could totally talk
Oh,
about that.
oh, honey, we could talk about for hours.
Keep up the good work, guys. Well, thank you so much for your submission and your kind words. I'm glad that you guys laugh as well. Or maybe some of you guys, maybe some of you are like, "Ugh, they're laughing again."
They're not our target audience then. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna read a review from the Apple Podcast. So yeah, this is another way that you guys can get the templates, but make sure if you do leave a review on Apple Podcasts, you have to screenshot it and submit it in that form. Otherwise, we won't have a way to send you the templates. So this person says, I can't wait to see where this podcast goes. I'm a civil engineering major and I just started in my new internship. Love it so far, and this podcast is so encouraging. It's going to help me push through until graduation. That is awesome. And ironically enough, the speaker that we have on today, she was majored in civil engineering. So hopefully this will be a really good episode for you to listen to.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think.
All right. I say we get into the chunk of this episode and listen to Vanessa speak.
I agree.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoy this snippet from Vanessa. Welcome, Vanessa, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I've just been listening to your podcast. So thanks for inviting me to be one of your guest speakers. So my name is Vanessa from It's Vanessa, mostly on Instagram. And I graduated San Diego State as a civil engineer. I currently work as a transportation engineer, but I have a background also in land development. So kind of general civil, but yeah, that's mainly what I do.
Transportation. Awesome. That's kind of cool. That's kind of different.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because when I was in school, I didn't think I wanted to do transportation engineering. Mm-hmm. And some people that I've talked to, they're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't like transportation engineering." I was like, "Well, why? Actually, it's kind of fun now that I'm actually working in it." But it's funny, I didn't think that I would be in this specific industry when I first started out.
Yeah. What made you want to go towards civil engineering?
Well, I think what started it was I thought structural engineering was really interesting, and I'm pretty sure a lot of civils that you might have like run into, they're like, oh yeah, I thought I wanted to do structural, which a lot of us end up not doing structural, surprisingly. And I did do a lot of emphasis in structural engineering when I was in school. and I really enjoyed it, but I started interning at a land development firm, and I found that really interesting. So you never really know where you end up, to be
Mhm.
honest. But yeah, so structural engineering is one of the 6 different disciplines of civil engineering. So there's structural, transportation, environmental, geotech, water, and oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Construction. I think that might have been it. But yeah, so
Okay.
there's like 6 different disciplines of civil engineering.
You said that you started in land development for like your internship and beginning work experience. How did you make the transition into transportation?
I actually had a working opportunity that I was reached out to, and I really wanted. I think it was about 2.5 years. So I interned at the land development firm, and
Mhm.
I worked there for about 2.5 years, and then around that 2.5 year mark was when I had a new opportunity and switched over to transportation, and I've loved it ever since.
Awesome.
Nice.
Can you kind of give an overview of what you do as a transportation engineer on a day-to-day basis?
What I do on a day-to-day basis as a transportation engineer, so I start off with, the boring part where you check your emails and kind of check in to see your to-do list and see what, I have ready for the day. And for the most part, I'm actually in computer-aided drafting, so I'm in AutoCAD majority of the day. Drafting different plans. Sometimes I'll use AutoCAD. Sometimes, since I'm in transportation engineering, there's also MicroStation, which we don't even have a class on that
Mhm.
program when I was in school. You just kind of learn on the job. And so I mainly am drafting plans through that program. And then besides that, then I'll sometimes be working on reports, creating cost estimates, working together with structural engineers, and also sometimes, depending on the stage of the project, I'll work with surveyors, geotech, land landscaping, and then towards the end of the project, then I'll work with the contractors. It's a little bit of everything.
Are you able to give like a dummy version, like super basic of like what transportation engineering is? Because when I think about it, like what comes to mind is like stoplights and stop signs and highways. And does it involve that, or is what's it like?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of everything. And the thing that I think a lot of people associate, yeah, with transportation engineering is either traffic or just regular transportation. So I don't do the traffic portion, but that's like a whole nother level that I have no idea how to do. But that
Mhm.
is the stoplights and the different signaling. They definitely analyze like how, the different signals will be. I don't know how to fully explain this, but that they're the ones who figure that out. Whereas in transportation engineering, I'm actually specific in a specific field of transportation engineering, which is rail and transit. Excuse me. And then there's also roads and highways. So there's a lot of different things like kind of incorporated into transportation engineering. So roads and highways is kind of what you were mentioning. It's when there's a new say entrance or exit from a freeway or highway or anything like that, the transportation engineers who are focused in that specific discipline create that. They design and figure out, okay, how long it needs to be, how much of a turn it, like the entrance and exit of the freeway would be, how many lanes there needs to be for the freeway or highway if it's not already there. When it's in construction, they also have to figure out the temporary. So sometimes
Oh
they'll
wow.
get mad at transportation engineers are like, oh, it's too close, there's no shoulders, or people are always complaining about those things, but that's just the temporary when there's in construction. Sometimes we work with the bridge engineers because there's actually bridges that sometimes we're just driving over that we don't even notice while we're on these freeways. So that's the roads and highways portion of transportation engineering. And
Mhm.
then where I work specifically in rail and transit. So it's bikeway and railway projects. So a lot of my projects, there's different cycle tracks is what we call it. Either um, protected bikeway where there would be like a buffer curb, or sometimes it's a shared bikeway or the typical bike lane that you would see. So kind of depending on the necessary need for certain areas. I'm from San Diego. I don't know if I've mentioned that earlier, San Diego, California, but we actually are pretty active when it comes to creating bike lanes and different ways for people to ride their bikes throughout the city. And going also into the rail portion, one of my main projects is a pedestrian undercrossing. And so right now there's an existing railway where there's no station, there's no stops, but there's a elementary school on one end and then shopping centers and residential on the other end. And so some people are just crossing that dangerously, you know, instead of going to, which is a pretty far down the line of where they can legally cross. So what we're doing is creating a safe ADA, American Disability Act, ADA compliant pathway to go underneath the existing tracks so that people are able to safely cross from one side to another. So that's just an example of like a project that I work on rail, but there's also so many different things. So it's pretty large in a sense and very, it's hard to, I wouldn't have known that when I was in school, honestly. You just kind of see it. I've just ridden the train or the coaster or the trolley or anything like that and not realizing there was so much work that was put into it.
Yeah, definitely. Would you ever want to switch from your discipline to like maybe bridges, or you mentioned roads, or are you kind of happy where you are right now?
So I think I would, right now, I'm thinking I would be more leaning towards staying in the same discipline, but then starting to go more in the project management side. So you can do project management, and working on the different projects that are available and kind of making sure we're within the scope and figuring out the schedule and everything like that. So I think that is kind of where I'm starting to lean towards. I don't know if I will specifically switch over on a different section of transportation engineering. Who knows? Maybe eventually. But I definitely work with our bridge group a lot on pedestrian pathways. So that's kind of cool too.
Was this something that you had always known you wanted to do? You know, like going back to when you originally decided to major in engineering, what were your kind of motives behind wanting to do that, and what was the reason?
Honestly, I didn't even know engineering was an option for me. I'm sure like many people were like, oh yeah, like what do engineer like TikTok, for example, like what do
Yeah,
engineers do? Like what do they even do?
nobody knows.
I can barely
Nobody
answer
knows.
that one.
Yeah.
Right? So that I think that's why I kind of like try to talk about it. I mean, I don't go in depth as much as like some people do. Maybe they can learn more from listening to your podcast, but I really did not know at all what I wanted to do. I just knew that I liked math and science, and I know that's really basic, but at the same time, that's all I really, kind of had an interest in. And it's kind of hard to really know what you want to do. So I took like an intro to engineering class at my community college, um, because I could have gone to some universities, but I didn't know, like where to go,
Yeah.
what to do. So I just kind of like played it a safe route. Helped me save some money as well, but definitely took like an intro to engineering class. And like I mentioned earlier, like structural engineering sounded really cool. And I totally thought that that's where I wanted to go. And I still find it very interesting, but I kind of prefer what I'm doing now. And I'm just kind of going with the flow. Like if opportunities come, I will definitely take advantage of that. So that's kind of what led me to where I am today.
So, would you consider maybe like a PMP certificate or certification, or just kind of want to start with project management first and then kind of get into that?
So I do for my industry, it's not necessary to get a PMP, but you definitely can. We do have internal project management training sessions. So that kind of helps out so that we're not
Definitely.
blindly leading projects. But I think definitely I thought I did consider taking a PMP, but I think it will depend whether or not, if I think I need more additional training when it comes to project management. And another, path that I could also take for moving up the ladder, I guess you can say, is business development. So a lot of the times, as we get higher up, besides project management, you can do business development where you're getting the projects for the company. So the project that I'm currently working on, the pedestrian undercrossing, for example, this has been around for like 10 plus years. Like I think I was still in high school when they won this project, but
Wow.
it's really crazy. But it's really cool to see that once you are in the business development side, you are trying to win these projects that eventually that will be the projects that our whole team will work on 10, 15 years from now, which is pretty cool.
Definitely.
How has it been being a woman in your industry? Are there a lot of other women that you work with, not only just at your company, but who do transportation engineering, or have you found that you're kind of one of the only ones?
Surprisingly, for civil, I would say when I was in school, there was like 5 girls out of every 10 men.
Yeah.
um, so definitely the ratio offset is still there. But then when I was in land development, there was actually a lot of women. I would say not exactly 50%. And then at my current company, my immediate team, it was really cool. I had a boss who was a female, and I really enjoyed having her as my main boss. She recently left, but I still we're actually a good ratio. When we were in her team, we recently switched teams, so now I would say there's about 5 women to another 7 to 10 men in our team.
It's not
So I would
bad.
say, yeah, the ratio is not bad. I would say it's not the same for every transportation company or every land development company or, civil engineering in general. There's still less women in the ratio. And actually, 2 of the women in my team, they just went on maternity leave. And it's nice to know that I have women in my company that I could reach out to relating to such, when it comes to
Yeah,
my time.
definitely.
So you mentioned that you had a direct manager that was a woman in engineering. Did you notice any differences, like if you had, a male direct manager between their kind of managing styles?
I definitely would say yes. And when my past manager left, I'm thankful that the current manager that I have, he's very understanding and he's like, what can I do? He really like set a meeting with all the girls like, okay, so what can I do? What is there any issues that you have? Like, let me know. So I really appreciate that. And I think it depends, honestly, who's on your team. And I wouldn't say it's not all men, right?
Yeah.
It's not all men. I definitely think I'm thankful for the manager that I have, but I can see that it if I didn't have her as a manager during, when I was first starting out, like it definitely would be different because I think she, helped guide me in ways that maybe like, I don't know, maybe a male manager wouldn't think to, or when I bought my first house, she sent me a package. Like, who does that?
Oh,
Like
Awesome.
I don't, my supervisor doesn't really do that, but he's a great supervisor as well. But it's one of those things that it's a little female touch that is
hmm.
different. But I would say in general, it really depends because I have met some managers. Luckily they're not mine, but I definitely think it would be a different story for me.
Yeah. And then kind of tying into like being a woman in STEM in the industry, when you first started off your career and maybe even still, have you ever experienced like imposter syndrome? And like how have you built confidence within your career?
I definitely experience imposter syndrome. I think even this past week I experienced it. Honestly, it's one of those it's so funny because I just like am addicted probably to like TikTok sometimes or like or reels, but it's there's that sound that's like so are you gonna cry about it or are you gonna boss up?
Yeah.
So
It's a good motto.
it's a good motto, and I laugh at it when I see people do that TikTok, but at the same time, like I feel that so hard.
Mhm.
And that's like what the definition I think of imposter syndrome, in I guess just funny phrases. But honestly, yeah, like I get really anxious, I guess, and I feel that like, oh man, like I don't think I'm good enough. I don't know if like I should be in this position whatsoever. There's all these like negative thoughts sometimes when it comes to that imposter syndrome, but
Mhm.
then I have to try to take a step back, deep breath, and then just be like, okay, no, like basically give myself a little confidence boost, and I'm just gonna boss up, and I'm just gonna fake it till I make it that I belong here.
Yeah. I
Awesome.
think we
So,
can all relate to that.
Yes,
yeah.
definitely. Just the TikTok sounds playing back in your head. You're like,
Yeah. It's really relatable. Like, I don't know why people
yes.
complain about TikTok.
Yeah.
It helps. I mean, I feel like it's a good tool to connect, young engineers. But speaking of young engineers, you mentioned that you learned this new software on the job. I think it was MicroStation. So how did you kind of learn on the job, and what kind of advice would you give to these young engineers starting out in their careers, learning again these different disciplines that exist that they didn't know of, or maybe they have to learn this new software? Do you have any, advice, or can you talk about how you handled that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say ask a lot of questions, and I think that's something that um a lot of women, I mean, sometimes we have this way of like, oh, no, I'm going to figure everything out before I ask any questions, which is good to still figure out as much as you can before asking those questions, but don't be afraid to ask questions because your supervisor, whoever is teaching you, understands that you don't know certain things, and that's why
Mhm.
they're there to help you. And so I would say definitely, Google is your friend. I definitely use Google a lot when I first started out, learning like these programs like MicroStation, but also YouTube as well. Google and YouTube
Mhm.
gave me a lot of tips on certain commands that I needed to input into the program. But when I would get stuck is when I would start asking my supervisor and letting him or her know, I looked this up, I started off with this, and is this the right direction? Am I going in the right direction? And if not, could you please guide me in where I need to be? So that's usually like the step-by-step process. And I recently had an intern. He's still actually currently my intern, but I try to teach him as much or try to give more information, especially, during this time, over communicate,
Mhm.
and try to teach him different things. And then if he has any questions, I tell him, don't hesitate to ask me as well.
Yeah.
Definitely Google and YouTube. It sounds like school.
Yeah.
All over again.
Yes.
So, how has, I know you mentioned a little bit earlier that you're mostly on Instagram and you're posting about being women in STEM. How did you kind of come up with the idea to make the account and start posting that kind of content?
Yeah, I really started out. I think I tried doing YouTube a long time ago, and that I kind of gave up on that, honestly. But Instagram was where I discovered a lot of other engineering specific accounts, and I think Iron Ring Gals or Iron Ring Girls. I think that's
Mhm.
I might
Yeah, I
have
think I
butchered
followed
that.
them too. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do, because you always post it on your story, Libby. That's how I
Yeah.
saw. That's how I
I love that
found you.
account.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the first accounts that I saw, and then Engineering Gals was another one that popped up, and so I started getting inspired by these accounts, and I was like, oh, I really don't see so many specific people that look like me. posting on Instagram. So why don't I also share that? Because I do a lot of things behind the scenes, or at least in my personal life, I get involved. With K-12 Outreach quite often. And so it's trying to see and incorporate that into social media, because that's how I believe that you can reach more people as well. And that's really how I got into it. And it just kind of started out, I think, around 2019, maybe 2020. Since everyone, couldn't leave their house. And I think that's where I started to connect with so much more people through Instagram, and really trying to meet more women in STEM through that.
Yeah, I can't believe how many women in STEM there are just on Instagram. It's so cool to see everybody's jobs and what they do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know nothing about civil engineering in general, so it was so interesting to learn these different disciplines, and like how there's like bridge engineers now and like road, and then versus like railway. So I feel like with civil, I just thought, oh, they just all do it all, I guess, but super interesting.
Civils, we get the most hate, I would
What?
say.
No way.
Like it's one of the hardest ones.
No, it's that people are always making it's you have to like kind of see it sometimes. Maybe I only notice it more because I'm a civil, but like on some of the engineering like accounts run by men, some of not to say that, let me go back. Some of the men who do hold those accounts, like they support women, but it's like since it's run by another man, and then like all these other men start going on to it, like I see a lot of hate of like, oh, civil engineering is not even a real engineering, or they are saying, oh, that's the easiest one. Or I think one time I saw a comment like when they posted of a civil engineer, like I don't remember whose post it was, but they just reposted it and they're like, I thought this was an engineering account, why are you posting civil engineers? I was like, oh my gosh. I Yeah, it's insane. And so I'm trying to, show that there is more to civil engineering than the summation of forces is equal to 0. Like that's like the bare minimum.
Mechanics. There you go. Let's take one of those.
That's like the bare minimum of civil engineering. Like we're literally the oldest engineering discipline that there is. And so like I think I commented back once like, respect your elders.
Yeah. We paved the way.
Yeah, literally.
Was there a lot of other engineering disciplines at the school you went to choose from?
Yes, yeah. I don't think I can name them all, but definitely there was mechanical, aerospace, electrical, computer. I think, yeah, basically all of them. We even have a construction and engineering specific major, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. So you're surrounded by like a lot of different disciplines and different engineering type people when you're in college.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Can you talk more about your outreach that you do for the K through 12? That sounds super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm involved in the American Society of Civil Engineers within my local area. And so we do a lot of things, especially Engineering Week is coming up. So it's like the 3rd week of February. And we always do this thing called Engineering Day at the mall, where we have outdoor malls. And so we would have a bunch of booths from all the different engineering organizations and companies in our area. And we teach kids that are like, either we advertise it to them or they happen to be walking around at the mall, and teach them engineering through activities. Like there's literally so much, and it's pretty cool. Like the rocket one obviously is like a favorite, but
a fan fave.
Yeah, a fan fave. But it's really cool. Like it's one of my favorite things to do, and teaching the kids engineering, and seeing their faces and how excited they are, and like, oh, this is so cool. Now I want to be an engineer. I want to do these types of activities. And so that's one of the things. And I still also do other like K through 12 outreach continually through my organization. And it's kind of similar to that same aspect of teaching kids what engineering is about, not just at that day, but as many times as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and like with American Society of Civil Engineers, we do a lot of other things too. Also, we like different community service activities, and also what's another thing? We go reach out to our local schools. So through those local schools, we do resume workshops and mock interviews, and then we also have a scholarship for them as well.
Wow, that's really cool.
Awesome.
How did you
Yeah.
get involved with the American Society of Civil Engineers? Is that something you learned about in school or like post school in your career, or how did you join that?
Yeah, actually, so it wasn't until I transferred to my university that I found out about American Society of Civil Engineers. And so I just kind of jumped in, I think my first or second semester there, um, and just kind of enjoyed like the whole process. There's actually a conference that they host every year through the schools, and there's different regions, but the one that I specifically go to is with all of California, some of Arizona and Nevada, and even Hawaii, all go to this one conference every year. And there's different competitions like concrete canoes, steel bridge, transportation, environmental, geo-wall, and then there's like sports, which I really enjoyed because I like volleyball and basketball. So there's that conference is what really got me excited about this organization, and because I was able to like really get to know my classmates through these different like teams that we were involved in, and I just kind of been hooked ever since. And so that was starting out when I was in school, and then after graduating, there's also the Younger Member Forum, or YMF. So ASCE YMF for my specific local chapter. And now, after it's been about 5, 6 years since I graduated, and now I am currently my local chapter's president.
Oh my gosh, that's
Awesome.
so cool.
Very
I've
cool.
a lot of things going on.
You've been busy.
I've been busy. That's what in the background, that's mostly what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So, have you ever experienced anything in the industry, maybe in internships or even in school, where you've been treated differently because you're a woman, or have there ever been any uncomfortable situations that you've had to deal with?
I would say there's not that many, but there are some instances. I definitely remember my first internship. I think there was like somebody who was walking around the office and didn't know that I was one of the interns, or that actually I think they did know that I was an intern, and they're like, "Are you sure you want to be one of them?"
Oh.
Like pointing at like the office of one of the engineers. I was like, what do you mean? I'm in school
Yeah.
to be what they're to do what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
You're like, this
You're
is
like,
why I'm
I'm
here.
pretty sure.
Yeah. This
yeah.
is why I'm here. So,
Yeah. So I thought it was really funny. I was like, what do you mean? Or it was either that, or I think they thought I was a secretary of some sort, or they expected me to take notes because I was the female, like, oh, you're good at taking notes, or um yeah, like she can take the notes, it's fine. It's like, no, I'm
Classic.
yeah, it's still that those little things, like it still happens. Or I remember there's also, and this is why this one's kind of not necessarily related to like what I do for work or anything like that, but there has been an instance when I was at work and there were other females who were they weren't the engineers in the office,
Mhm.
and it seemed really strange that like they started being mean, like not like, I don't know how to explain it, but they weren't. I'm all about women supporting women, and I found it really strange that they wouldn't invite like certain women to certain things, but they like gave all the attention to the men because they loved how awkward they were. And
Oh.
so yeah, it was
Interesting.
it was a really interesting dynamic. Um and like I think because I also love to dress up, and I don't know, I would get like some side comments of like, oh, why is she dressed up, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So it luckily like now it's completely fine and I don't have to deal with them anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely did not appreciate it when I was getting like almost of that bullying from other women, which is really strange.
Yeah, so it almost seemed like there was like some sort of a divide between the women who were in engineering and the women who were not in engineering, but like within your company.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was really strange. And so I was like, I'm just gonna continue working because I am hired to be an engineer, and this cattiness, I'm not in high school anymore. Like, it's not necessary for me.
Mm-hmm.
Funny.
Yeah.
So when you got those comments about how you dress, did you ever, did you just take that same mindset? I'm going to do what I am here for and I'm going to do what I want to do? Or did you kind of change anything to address that?
I would say I didn't really change too much of what I what I wore because I love, you know, obviously not going to wear super short skirts or super
Right.
short dresses or low cut tops, but I still try to dress appropriately. But I definitely would still wear skirts and dresses, even though I could at some point, like sometimes people would just wear jeans
Mm-hmm.
or, just casual. To each their own. I love to dress up. I love to wear heels. And I don't think somebody who doesn't like that should be the one to decide what I wear, as long as it's appropriate.
Yeah. I love that you say you love to dress up at work because that's one of my favorite things about being a woman in STEM.
Same.
So it's so fun. So did you have somebody within your company, like when you first started there, that you asked, like, hey, is this appropriate? Because I know that's sometimes kind of like an awkward situation when you work with all men and you're like not sure what you can and can't wear, but you don't want to like ask. So did you just start like wearing whatever and you were like, nobody is mentioning anything, so I'm just gonna keep going? Or was there like a company guideline from your HR? Like, how did you like navigate where like dressing up as a woman in STEM?
That's a really good question. I think my first company that I worked in after graduating, I don't think there was a guideline because literally everyone, like land development is so much more lax that like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's wearing jeans all the time,
Mm-hmm.
which was nice. Definitely don't wear leggings actually at work. So it's just kind of like it was an unspoken thing when you're in the office, kind of seeing what everyone else wore, I guess you can say. But at the same time, I didn't wear what everyone else wore because I really liked wearing skirts and dresses just because it's cute. It's not, I'm still here to work, obviously, but I'm at a computer desk, and when you see, like, I love to follow like the fashion inspo stuff. It's like, how come they can wear like these boss power suits and everything, and why can't I just wear that myself? So it was more of like a confidence boost for me when I was working at my previous company and just wearing that just because for myself, but there definitely wasn't a guideline. And then my current company, I would say they dress a little bit more professionally. So you just kind of seeing what everyone wore. I don't think there was a specific guideline, but I believe in the employee handbook they did try to specify what you can't wear. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask specifically. I kind of just would look around and see what people are wearing, or I think maybe asking one of my coworkers like, "Hey, is this fine?"
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines. But yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoy dressing up, and even if it's a little overdressed, I don't know. It's better, I guess, to be a little overdressed than completely underdressed.
Definitely.
I agree. Awesome. Well, do you have any advice for your younger self going into your engineering degree? What would you tell yourself?
Um, so some advice that I would give myself going into the engineering degree is be okay with failure and struggling because I
Mm-hmm.
think I was a lot harder on myself, especially like when I was first starting out. Because, like I mentioned earlier, I did like math and science, and I think that's something that not everyone is interested in. And even then, it's like it's hard. It's
Yeah.
not like the math and science you had in high school whatsoever. Even if my professor said you did this in high school, I said no, I did not.
Right. Excuse me, sir. Teach me again.
What high school are you going to?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's okay, like, to feel a little dumb sometimes, but still keep going. It doesn't mean that you are dumb. It just, it's still learning, and it's okay to go through that failure. And I think before I really was hard on myself, and failure is still something that I learn, even now, even after like 6 years of experience, I still learn that it's okay, and try not to be so hard on myself. So that's something I would give my younger self and anyone else who's trying to pursue this, career, because it can be hard, but honestly, we'll be fine. It's going to be all worth it in the end.
I feel like that's an echoing theme between even just us two, Lexi and I. We're always like, we were so hard on ourselves, but it's okay.
You gotta chill out. You just gotta go with it.
You just gotta keep going.
Okay.
You're just gonna, just go with it. Like, are you gonna cry about it? Are you gonna boss up?
Yeah, that's the theme of the podcast.
I might do both.
I might do both.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's totally okay. Just reach for that goal that you want, whatever career that you want, whatever career path that you want. Like, if that's what you want, like, keep going at it, no matter how many times you fall.
No, yeah, that's great advice. All right. Well, I think that kind of concludes all the questions we wanted to ask you. So thank you so much, Vanessa, for coming on the podcast. And go ahead and plug yourself. Like, where can our listeners find you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed, talking to you too. It was a lot of fun. If you want to follow me or learn more, definitely reach out to me on Instagram. That's my main platform at It's Vanessa. I also am on TikTok, but not that much. So feel free to follow me there. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of My Best Friends in Engineer. Be sure to catch us weekly on Mondays for new episodes. And if you want to follow the podcast social media on Instagram, we are at My Best Friends in Engineer and on TikTok. And then on YouTube, we're at BFE Podcast.
So my personal Instagram and TikTok, if you want to follow, is Engineer Lexi.
And then my personal TikTok and Instagram is at Libby Beyond the Label. Another good episode down.
I really like this one. I'm so excited for us to have more guests, more different types of engineering for us to learn, as well as our followers and our community.
Yeah. I don't think we said it while we were speaking with Vanessa, but for our listeners' sake, we didn't have civil engineering at Miami, so it was really cool to listen to a perspective of someone in a discipline that we weren't familiar with.
Definitely. And we kind of, you kind of hear about it online or just in conversation, but it was so interesting to actually learn about the different disciplines and what she does on a day-to-day basis. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, also, don't forget, we're doing a giveaway. It's a $100 Visa gift card. We're hoping that can help you out whether you're in school or, working. And all you have to do to enter for that is to leave us a rating and review. I think the only place you can leave a review is Apple Podcast, but no matter where you leave a rating or rating and review, make sure you screenshot it and send it to us via DM on Instagram so that you can be entered for a chance to win that.
Yes, or in our Google form also.
Shall we try to get this down?
We shall. All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? 3. Okay, wait, we can't count down. That's weird. Okay.
We can do this.
All right. I'm Lexi.
I'm Libby.
And thanks for listening
to my best friends
in Engineer
Podcast.
Okay, I didn't know.
I don't think we've ever said podcast, but I
don't think so, but it felt right in that moment right there. I was
right.
like, it needs to be said.
Maybe one of these days we'll get it good.
I don't know. I kind of like us messing it up every time. Do you guys think it's fun and quirky of us? Let us know.
Do
you guys hate it? Let us know too.